There is something deeply human about believing that the pain we feel today will last forever. When hardship surrounds you from every direction, it doesn't just affect your situation, it begins to shape your perception. You start thinking this is how life will always be. You wake up with the same heaviness, you carry the same worries, and slowly your mind convinces you that this struggle has no end. But that is not reality, that is the emotional weight of the moment speaking. The truth is, every hardship you are facing right now is temporary. It has an expiry date, even if you cannot see it yet. And this is not just a comforting idea. It is a principle embedded in the way Allah has created life itself. Look at everything around you. The night does not argue with the coming of the day. The storm does not resist the calm that follows. Even the most intense pain in your body eventually subsides. Why? Because permanence belongs only to Allah. Everything else is designed to change. Psychologically, when a person believes their pain is endless, they lose the motivation to endure it. Hopelessness begins to grow, and once hope fades, even small difficulties start to feel unbearable. But when you remind yourself consciously and repeatedly that this is temporary, something shifts within you. You begin to endure differently. You begin to breathe through the pain instead of suffocating in it. You start to see your hardship not as a life sentence, but as a phase, and this is where faith transforms perspective. As believers, we don't just rely on observation, we rely on conviction. We know that Allah, in His infinite wisdom, does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. But more importantly, He does not allow a test to continue without purpose or without end. There is always a moment written for its conclusion. The difficulty you are in right now is not running endlessly. It is moving, even if slowly, toward its finish line. Sometimes, the reason it feels so long is because we measure hardship by our emotions, not by reality. A few months of pain can feel like years. A single trial can dominate your thoughts so completely that it seems like your entire life has become that struggle. But step back for a moment and reflect on your past. There were things you once thought you would never get through. There were nights you believed would break you, yet here you are, those moments passed, not because you forced them to, but because they were never meant to stay. This realization should not just comfort you, it should discipline your thinking. When you are in the middle of a hardship, remind yourself, this moment is not permanent. This feeling is not permanent. This situation is not permanent. And with that reminder comes a responsibility to respond in a way that reflects patience, trust, and dignity. Because if the hardship is temporary, then your reaction to it becomes even more important. Are you going to let a temporary phase define your permanent character? Or are you going to rise through it, knowing it will soon be behind you, so hold on, even when it feels difficult? Not blindly, but with understanding, not passively, but with trust, because the pain you feel today is already on its way out. You're just living through its final moments. And one day, sooner than you think, this will all be something you survived, not something you're stuck in. There is a certain kind of anxiety that comes from feeling like your life is slipping out of your control. When things don't go according to your plans, when doors close unexpectedly, when outcomes don't match your effort, it creates a deep internal discomfort. You begin to question everything, your decisions, your direction, even your worth. And at the core of that discomfort is one powerful illusion, the belief that you were ever fully in control to begin with. The reality is, control has always belonged to Allah, completely, absolutely, and without exception. What we experience as losing control is often just the removal of an illusion we had grown comfortable with. And while that realization can feel unsettling at first, It is actually one of the most liberating truths a person can internalize. Because if Allah is in control, then nothing in your life is random. Not the hardship, not the delay, not the confusion, not even the pain. Every detail is measured, every outcome is intentional, and every moment is unfolding exactly as it has been written. This doesn't mean you won't struggle. It means your struggle is not meaningless. Think about how the mind reacts when faced with uncertainty. It tries to fill in the gaps. It imagines worst-case scenarios. It exaggerates the negative and minimizes the possibility of ease. Why? Because the mind is trying to regain a sense of control. But when you anchor yourself in the belief that Allah is already in control, you relieve yourself of that burden. You no longer have to figure everything out in order to feel at peace. This is where true trust, comes into play. Not the kind of trust that exists only when things are going well, but the kind that remains steady even when everything feels like it's falling apart. It's easy to say, "I trust Allah," when life is smooth. The real test of that statement is when life becomes difficult, when outcomes are unclear, and when patience is required. From a psychological perspective, trust in Allah restructures the way you process hardship. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is Allah teaching me through this?" That shift in questioning is powerful. It transforms you from a passive victim of circumstance into an active participant in your own growth. And understand this clearly, Allah's control is not just about power, it is about wisdom and mercy. There are things you want that may harm you, and there are things you fear that may benefit you. But you cannot always see that in the moment. Your vision is limited to what is in front of you, while Allah's knowledge encompasses what was, what is, and what will be. So when something doesn't go your way, it is not necessarily a loss. It may be protection. When something is delayed, it is not necessarily a denial. It may be preparation. And when you are placed in a situation that feels overwhelming, it is not because you have been abandoned. It is because you are being shaped. This understanding doesn't remove hardship, but it changes how you carry it. You stop resisting reality and start aligning with it. You stop fighting what you cannot control and start focusing on what you can. Your response, your patience, your connection with Allah. And in that alignment, something remarkable happens. The same situation that once caused you anxiety begins to bring you a sense of calm. Not because the problem has disappeared, but because your heart has found stability in the one who controls it all. So remind yourself, especially in moments of uncertainty, nothing is out of Allah's control. Not your past, not your present, and certainly not your future. And when you truly internalize that, you realize you were never meant to carry the weight of control, only the responsibility of trust. There is a question that quietly sits in the mind of almost every person going through hardship. Why me? It's not always asked out loud, but it lingers beneath the surface. Why this difficulty at this time in this way? And if that question is left unanswered, it can slowly turn pain into resentment. But the moment you begin to understand the purpose behind hardship, that same pain starts to transform into something meaningful. Because hardship in its essence is not designed to break you, it is designed to elevate you. We often associate elevation with ease. We think progress looks like comfort, success, and stability, but in reality, some of the greatest transformations happen in moments of pressure. Just as a diamond is formed under intense conditions, the human soul is refined through difficulty. Without challenge, there is no growth. Without resistance, there is no strength. From a psychological perspective, hardship disrupts your normal patterns. It forces you to confront parts of yourself you would otherwise ignore. Your patience is tested. Your priorities are exposed. Your dependence on people, on outcomes, on expectations, all of it is shaken, and in that shaking, something deeper begins to settle. Your connection with Allah. When everything is going well, it is easy to become distracted. You rely on your plans, your abilities, your resources. But when hardship strikes, those layers are stripped away. You are brought back to a place of sincerity. Your doers become more focused, your thoughts more reflective, your heart more Arabic, Het Arabic, Elif Arabic, Daida Arabic, Rot present. In a way, hardship recenters you. And this is part of its elevation. It doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. There is also a purification that takes place. Every difficulty you endure with patience is a means of cleansing. Sins are wiped away, burdens you cannot see are lifted, and your spiritual state is refined. Even the smallest discomfort, when faced with the right mindset, carries weight in the sight of Allah. Nothing is wasted, but elevation is not automatic, it is conditional. Two people can go through the same hardship. One emerges stronger, more grounded, more connected to Allah. The other becomes bitter, distant, and overwhelmed. The difference is not in the difficulty itself, but in how it is understood and responded to. If you see hardship as meaningless, it will drain you. If you see it as purposeful, it will shape you. And sometimes the elevation is not immediately visible. You may not feel stronger right away. You may not see the wisdom while you are still in the middle of the struggle. But growth is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is quiet. It happens in the way you begin to think differently, in the way you react with more restraint, in the way your Arabic, Alf Arabic, Lam Arabic, by heart becomes softer yet more resilient. Over time, you start to notice that the things which once disturbed you no longer have the same effect. The challenges that once felt overwhelming become manageable, not because life has become easier, but because you have been strengthened. And then there is a level of elevation that goes beyond this world. Every moment of patience, every tear held back for the sake of Allah, every effort to remain steadfast, it is all being recorded. There is a reward attached to your hardship that far exceeds the pain itself. A reward that is not temporary, not limited, and not comparable to anything in this Arabic, Elif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Dal Arabic, Noon Arabic, Yet Arabic Elif. So when you find yourself asking, why is this happening to me? Try to reframe the question. Ask instead, what is this doing for me? What is it removing from me? What is it building within me? What is it preparing me for? Because once you begin to see hardship through that lens, it no longer feels like a setback. It becomes a process, a necessary, purposeful, and ultimately beneficial process. And perhaps the most powerful realization is this: the very thing you are struggling with today may be the reason you stand stronger tomorrow, closer to Allah than you have ever been. So do not underestimate the value of what you are going through. It is not just pain, it is preparation. There is a subtle but powerful promise that many people overlook when they are going through hardship. It is not just that ease will come at some distant point in the future. It is that ease exists alongside the hardship itself. This idea is deeply transformative because it challenges the way we naturally interpret difficulty. We tend to see pain as something isolated, something overwhelming, something that consumes the entire moment. But the reality is far more balanced than that. When Allah promises that with hardship comes ease, it shifts your perspective from waiting for relief to recognizing that relief is already present, even if it is not immediately obvious. Psychologically, the human mind has a tendency to magnify what hurts and ignore what helps. When you are going through a difficult phase, your attention becomes fixed on what is going wrong. You replay the problem, analyze it, worry about it, and in doing so, you give it more space than it actually occupies. Meanwhile, the elements of ease, the small mercies, the quiet blessings, the subtle forms of support fade into the background. But they are there. Ease can appear in ways you might not expect. It might be in the form of strength you didn't know you had. It might be in a moment of calm in the middle of chaos. It might be in a person who supports you, a door that opens just enough to keep you moving, or even the ability to wake up and try again despite everything you are facing. These are not coincidences, they are part of the promise. Understanding this requires a shift in awareness. Instead of asking, "Where is the ease?" you begin to ask, "What ease is already present that I am not noticing?" That question alone can change the emotional weight of your situation. It moves you from a mindset of Arabic, noon Arabic, off Arabic side a lack to a mindset of recognition, and this recognition builds resilience. Because when you can see that ease exists within hardship, the difficulty no longer feels absolute. It becomes layered. Yes, there is pain, but there is also support. Yes, there is uncertainty, but there is also guidance. Yes, there is struggle, but there is also strength. This layered understanding allows you to endure with more stability. You are no longer waiting passively for things to get better. You are actively engaging with the reality that there is already something good within what you are experiencing. At the same time, the promise of ease is not just about the present, it also extends into the future. There will come a moment when the hardship you are facing will begin to lift. The weight will decrease. The clarity will return. The doors that once seemed closed will begin to open, but that moment requires patience. And patience in this context is not simply Arabic, ta Arabic, het Arabic, meme Arabic, lam endurance. It is a conscious decision to remain grounded, to remain hopeful, and to continue moving forward even when the outcome is not yet visible. It is trusting the promise without needing to control the timing, because one of the greatest challenges people face is not the hardship itself. It is the uncertainty of when it will end. We want timelines. We want clarity. We want to know exactly when things will improve. But part of the test is learning to live without that certainty while still holding onto hope. And this is where faith becomes essential. You are not just hoping for ease, you are relying on a promise from Allah. A promise that has never failed, a promise that does not depend on your circumstances, and a promise that will manifest in the way that is best for you. So even when you cannot see the full picture, trust that there is more happening than what is visible. Trust that the ease you are waiting for is already unfolding, step by step, moment by moment, and remind yourself of this. If ease is guaranteed, then despair is a misunderstanding. There is something profoundly defining about how a person responds to hardship. Not the hardship itself, because difficulties are a shared human experience. Everyone faces them in one form or another, but the response. That is where the real difference lies. That is where paths begin to separate, even if people are standing in the exact same storm. Two individuals can experience the same loss, the same delay, the same pain. One of them emerges with a deeper sense of purpose, a stronger connection with Allah, and a more grounded understanding of life. The other becomes overwhelmed, resentful, and emotionally drained. The external situation may be identical, but the internal response creates entirely different outcomes. This is because your response is not just a reaction, it is a decision, And that decision shapes your character, your mindset, and ultimately your future. From a psychological perspective, hardship triggers a range of emotional responses: fear, frustration, confusion, even anger. These reactions are natural. They are part of being human. But what matters is what you do after that initial reaction. Do you allow those emotions to take control, or do you step back and choose how to process them? When you turn to Allah in moments of difficulty, you are making a conscious shift. You are choosing patience over panic. You are choosing trust over doubt. You are choosing reflection over reaction. And that choice, repeated consistently, begins to reshape who you are. Patience, in this sense, is not passive. It is active. It is the ability to hold yourself steady when everything around you feels unstable. It is maintaining your principles when it would be easier to abandon them. It is continuing to make do even when the answer has not yet arrived. It is waking up each day and choosing not to give up, even when you feel exhausted. And alongside patience is reliance, turning to Allah not just as a last resort, but as your first response. Too often, people exhaust every other option before they remember to make sincere dua. But imagine reversing that order. Imagine beginning with Allah, grounding yourself in that connection, and then moving forward with clarity and calm. This kind of response does not eliminate hardship, but it transforms its impact. Instead of the difficulty breaking you, it begins to build you. Instead of feeling lost, you begin to feel guided even if the path is still unclear. There is also a level of accountability in this. If hardship truly has an expiry date, as we've established, then the way you behave during that temporary phase becomes incredibly significant. Because the hardship will pass, but the Arabic, Hamzatul Talif Arabic, that Arabic, wrought impact of your actions will remain. The habits you develop, the mindset you cultivate, the relationship you build with Allah, all of that continues long after the difficulty is gone. So the question becomes, who are you becoming through this? Are you becoming more patient or more reactive? More trusting or more doubtful? More reflective or more distracted? These are not small questions. They are defining ones, and it's important to understand that growth does not require perfection. You will have moments of Arabic, Daida Arabic, Teen Arabic, weakness. You will feel overwhelmed at times. You may even question things. But what matters is that you return. You realign. You remind yourself of the bigger picture and continue moving forward. Because every time you choose the right response, even in a small way, you are strengthening something within yourself. You are building resilience. You are deepening your faith. You are preparing yourself not just to survive hardship, but to rise through it. And eventually, when the hardship does pass, as it will, you won't just look back and say, I got through it. You will say, I grew through it. So don't underestimate the power of your response. It is not just shaping your present, it is defining your transformation. Because in the end, the hardship may be temporary, but the person you become through it is lasting. There is a powerful illusion that hardship creates. It makes you believe that this moment is the whole story. When you are in pain, when things are not working out, when life feels heavy and uncertain, it narrows your vision. You begin to see only what is in front of you. The struggle feels permanent, the difficulty feels defining, and without realizing it, you start to write your entire story based on a single chapter. But your life is not a single chapter. It is a sequence of moments, phases, and transitions, all unfolding with purpose. And what you are experiencing right now, no matter how intense, is only a part of that journey. It is not the conclusion. From a psychological standpoint, this is what we call emotional permanence, the tendency to believe that what we feel now is what we will always feel. It is why sadness can feel endless, why confusion can feel permanent, and why hardship can seem like it has no exit. But just as emotions change, circumstances change. The state you are in right now is not fixed. It is moving, even if that movement is subtle. This is where perspective becomes essential. If you define your story by your current struggle, you limit your ability to see beyond it. You begin to lose hope, not because hope is absent, but because your focus has become too narrow to recognize it. But when you step back and remind yourself that this is only a phase, something shifts. You create space for possibility. You allow room for change, and this is not just about positive thinking, it is about aligning with reality. Nothing in your life has ever remained the same forever. You have already lived through different chapters. Some easy, some difficult, some confusing, some clear. Each one came and each one passed. This moment will do the same, but there is something deeper here. Your story is not just unfolding randomly, it is being written with intention. Every experience, every delay, every test is contributing to something larger than what you can currently see. There is a direction, even when you feel lost. There is meaning, even when things don't make sense. And sometimes, the reason you cannot see the full picture is because you are still inside it. You are too close to the moment to understand it. It is only later, when you have moved forward, that clarity begins to emerge. You start to connect the dots. You begin to see how certain hardships protected you, redirected you, or prepared you for something better. Think about moments in your past that once felt overwhelming. At the time, you may have thought they would define you in a negative way. But now, with distance, you can see how they contributed to your growth. They made you stronger, wiser, more aware. They became part of your story, but they did not become your identity, and that is the key distinction. Your hardship is something you go through, not something you become. So do not let this moment convince you that your future is limited. Do not let temporary pain shape your permanent outlook. There is more ahead of you than what you are currently experiencing. There are chapters you have not yet lived, opportunities you have not yet seen, and ease you have not yet felt. But to reach those chapters, you have to keep moving. You have to continue showing up, even when it's difficult. You have to hold on to the belief that your story is still unfolding, and that what lies ahead can be better than what you are going through now. Because one day you will look back at this phase, not with the same pain but with understanding. You will see how it fit into the larger picture. You will recognize that it was never the end, only a transition. So don't close the book on yourself while you are still in the middle of the story. Because your hardship may feel heavy, but it is not your final chapter.